To the Sustainability Commission meeting for March. I am Amy Delac. I'm the chair of the commission, and I don't see too many guests on, but we'll go ahead and do introductions anyway. We will start, as I've made a habit of doing, with a land acknowledgement. I think myself and probably most of us here are meeting today on lands that were formerly occupied by the Adena, Hopewell, Fort Ancient, and Shawnee cultures. And it keeps bumping me to spotlight video, and I'd like to go back to gallery view so I can see the rest of you. Okay, again, I am Amy Delac, chair of the commission. I'm going to just kind of ping everybody based on how I see you. So, Paul.
Hi, everyone. Paul Logue. I'm the planner for the City of Athens and a member of the Sustainability Commission.
Megan.
Hi, everyone. My name is Megan Almeida. I am a member of the commission, and I work for Rural Action.
Cool. Jasmine.
Hello, I'm Jasmine Fakoon. I am a member of the commission as well, and I am the Bailey's Trail System Program Assistant at Rural Action.
Cool. Ed.
Hello, I'm a West Sider, and I'm happy to be serving on this commission.
All right. Sarah.
Hey, everyone. Sarah Conley-Blue. I'm a commission member and Rural Action's Program Director for Sustainable Energy Solutions.
Elaine.
I'm also, I think we're all commission members, and I am an East Sider, and I also am the Director of Energy Management and Sustainability at Ohio University.
Sam.
Hi, everyone. I'm a City Council's representative on the commission. I also am work in the Office of Sustainability at Ohio University, and I was a West Sider, and now I'm an East Sider.
Stefan.
Hi, I'm Stefan Gleisberg. I'm a near North Sider. And a member of the commission. I'm also work with some local nonprofits, the Athens Conservancy, the Athens Area Birders, and others.
Austin?
Hi, yeah, I'm Austin Babber. I'm a commission member, and I'm a retired OU faculty member. I used to teach environmental and health communication. I don't live in the city. I'm actually a county resident.
Okay. And I saw Lauren briefly. I don't see her now, but I think she's on. Lauren, do you want to introduce yourself? There we go.
Hi, I'm Lauren Connor. I am the city intern for city planning. I'm a senior urban planning student, so I will be graduating in May, and I'm pretty sad about it, but
all right. Is there anyone else who's on who would like to say hello, either live or via the chat? It doesn't appear that anyone else is. Okay, with everyone introduced, we will officially call to order. And we will start, as is custom, with the disposition of the minutes. Paul sent those around a few days ago. Hopefully everyone got them and had a chance to look at them. Does anyone have any edits or suggestions on those minutes? Okay, can we get a motion to accept those?
I move to adopt the minutes.
Okay, second?
Second.
All right, all in favor? Aye.
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 All right, any opposed? All right. Next meeting date looks like it's supposed to be March 3rd, 2021. Does anyone have a major conflict with that? Okay. So we'll keep that as our plan for the next meeting. So that moves us on to old business, the first of which is backyard chickens. We did not have anything to report on that last time. Does anybody have anything to report this time?
Well, I can chime in here. I was unable to attend the last meeting, and I apologize for not providing any sort of notes in absentia, but Since last meeting, I guess I can share that Megan and I spent some time sort of discussing one aspect of backyard chicken, this backyard chicken initiative that seemed of interest to the commission in a previous conversation that we didn't really explore at the time, and that is the idea of having some sort of pilot initiative that sort of allows for a small group of city residents to, be allowed, whether that's through a special variance on the setback requirement. There's a requirement on the books for those who are unaware that, 100-foot setback is required for any structure that would house chickens. And so in the event that we'd want to allow a small group of people to explore chicken ownership, Meg and I just really wanted to sort of think that idea through a little bit and, look at what might be possible, what some of the issues may be, and then bring that back to the group. So, I'll run through some thoughts and love to get some feedback if we have time today on the call. We can also follow up, offline after the meeting if anyone has further thoughts. And Megan, feel free to chime in at any point if I leave anything out. So we discussed, again, a small cohort of city residents participating in this, and that allows for, a group that, we can identify easily and work with consistently so that they have the proper education and oversight and, the ability to really successfully build and, maintain a flock of chickens without, sort of going it alone, as it were, because there is a lot to know. And whether they're first-time owners or, experienced chicken farmers, there may be some, time that's needed to really support them in learning and building a community of support. And we thought, 10 was a good small subset of people that might be interested. And we discussed how, initially the thought was, well, maybe this is just a 12-month pilot, something that, kind of introduces people to the concept and, it's a pretty short-term thing. But as an experienced chicken owner myself, I thought about that a little more and went, if it's only 12 months, and in that time, you invest in the cost for a coop, you purchase little bitty chickens in the spring, and then come fall, they're finally mature enough to lay. It takes about 10 months for a chicken to go from bitty to mature hen. And our thought was that, that's barely enough time to really, invest in the time and really benefit from your chicken flock. So the more we thought about it, really the shortest term for this would likely need to be about 3 years. And that way, you can really reach the chickens through maturity, and you can, assuming you're doing laying hens. It's a different story with meat birds. I won't go into the details, but you can grow a meat bird in 8 weeks if you want to. But anyways, our thought was that we'd encourage the participants to attend classes. Now, I know the city obviously does not offer classes at the current moment in chicken ownership. So this would be something that we'd want to work with a local nonprofit to develop and support. As someone who, again, is a chicken owner myself, I'm very interested and willing to, support that and oversee that as a volunteer, though it may make sense that this is really, housed and operated by a local nonprofit, community food initiatives, rural action, someone who really has, the expertise in-house to do that. And then, make that somewhat of a requirement for those who are participating in pilot programs so that they really, get the knowledge that they need.
Yeah. Thanks, Sarah. So yes, Jasmine had suggested CFI in the chat, Community Food Initiatives. Does anyone know offhand, do they currently provide classes on chicken ownership to people outside of the city, or does Cooperative Extension have anything?
It's possible Cooperative Extension has classes, but I don't believe so.
Okay.
There may be resources online. There are definitely resources online to learn about chicken ownership.
Where do you have any plans for it, since this is a pilot program? What would happen to these birds after the 3 years is up if this didn't end up becoming a permanent program?
Great question. That's definitely something that would need to be looked at, because certainly chickens can live for more than 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
So, indeed. And any other thoughts that people might have would be great.
Just a couple of things I was thinking on the structure is you could have the pilot program go for 3 years, as sort of the technical time of the pilot, and that you could stipulate that you allow people to acquire chickens in, say, year 1 and year 2. But that since it's a pilot program, you can then, keep those chickens to the end of their natural life, but you can't acquire any more because of the pilot situation. But there's also a possibility, I would think, that the pilot program would then transition into a larger scale permanent, allowing of chickens, and then it wouldn't matter. The other thing that may make sense as part of a pilot program is to require that the participants get, an acknowledgement and acceptance kind of in writing from their immediate neighbors. I spent way too much of my life in a situation where I was in a homeowner association, and even to paint your door, you had to get a sign that said your neighbors were okay with it. But for something like chickens, and I certainly wouldn't advocate that for most of the things that one does not living in a homeowners association. But for backyard chickens, for participation in the pilot, that might be something that we want to have as a stipulation.
So what would that permit be based on? Why a permit for, an agreement, a neighbor agreement for chicken and not for a dog or cats? Well, the city currently believes that chickens are a bigger nuisance than dogs or cats, I assume, perhaps wrongly. We all have our certain valuations about various animals and their effects on their neighbors and the environment at large. But because this would be a pilot program for allowing a livestock poultry species that is not currently allowed in the city, and because there was some serious opposition to the idea of having chickens in the past when this issue came up, that would be maybe a way to possibly, remove some opposition, is that, your next door neighbor is not going to be allowed to have chickens unless you think it's okay.
And anybody who changed residences during that time would just have to move in with the understanding that somebody has chickens next door. Right?
Yeah, I think yeah, something like that.
I had a couple questions. One was, I was thinking maybe 18 months. Is there a reason why you think 3 years? And also would it take the full 3 years of a pilot program for this to go into a permanent, become a permanent program? I'm new to chicken ownership too, so I'm sure there's a reason, but I'm just curious what it is.
I'm so sorry, I missed your question, Jasmine.
Oh, I was wondering how you arrived at the 3 year mark.
Yeah, well, and that's because, again, the first 10 months they're rearing, you're raising chickens up, and they tend to lay most productively in the 2 years after they've matured. If you're in the egg business and you want the most productive hens, typically you cull your flock after 2 years. But most backyard chicken owners don't necessarily cull their flock unless they really don't want them around.
And there would be a limit, I'm guessing, to the number of birds that someone could have. So, the chances that they're going to end up selling or having enough eggs to sell that they're not using for their own families is probably less. They might have a few to give away, but.
Yeah, and you raise a really good point. So part of, I think, the design behind this would be that, all of the best practices around backyard chicken ordinances that we've seen in other communities would apply to these 10 residents that are participating. So that would include a flock limitation or flock size, no roosters, for example, really safe enclosure that doesn't, attract pests or, make an unsafe environment in that yard. And so much of this, I think, is about doing the research around what is the best way for a city to allow this and, and keep it safe and keep it, really within the right and proper guidance that people need to have, So I think that's also got to be a big part of this, and the research that would come out of it would then inform any legislation, I think, going down the road.
Yeah, so it would take 3 months for this to become a permanent fixture if it were to happen, or 3 years, I'm sorry.
Possibly. Okay. I think it'd be interesting to just see. I mean, it is somewhat of an experiment, and we know our city has some precedent in this regard with, the curbside compost program, community garden programs. We tend to ease into these kinds of initiatives often with sort of a pilot approach, and that really does help us sort of recognize interest and learn from that community as they experience it, and determine what really works well and what doesn't work well.
Yeah, and it's very good for community buy-in and gaining trust.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
There were those other examples that you were saying, we've got other pilots. Do they involve variances? I guess it seems a little confusing to have a pilot variance.
Yeah, good question. I mean, the variance would only be necessary if we did not make any legislative changes, any ordinance changes at the start of the pilot. And thus, if you, Elaine, would want to put backyard chickens in your yard, you would clearly be in violation of that 100-foot setback rule. So you would need a variance so that you could legally build that structure. Does that make sense? So in other cities, they have a 10-foot setback rule, for example, or something that's more, permissive for building a structure. So.
Yeah, I mean, the variance makes sense. I was just wondering, does our what's our board of variances? So
the Board of Zoning Appeals, right?
Zoning Appeals. Like, would they grant like 10 variances for a pilot, or have they ever done that before? I guess it would just have to. Yeah. I was just curious if anybody knew of that happening already.
I would think that there would still need to be some city council direction to the Board of Zoning Appeals regarding the establishment of this pilot. So I don't think we could do this without city council giving its blessing. Is that Paul?
Mr. Love, do you want to chime in here?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. I can't envision a situation where the Board of Zoning Appeals could be ordered by city council or the law director to carte blanche award a variance, period. I don't, that's very, that does not sound like, that seems very slippery from a legal perspective. If it needs to go through a variance process, I would argue that an applicant is at the risk of getting denied a variance. And based on Athens City Code, through the variance process, there really should be no reason why they would award a variance for a setback violation or for setbacks with something like this. I think the pilot idea makes sense to me. I think it does, at least. But I would say city council could probably take it as a pilot, but it would still need to go through, because it's a zoning change. Even if it's a temporary zoning change, I think it's probably for our law director to weigh in on if she could. But as I would say it would still need to go through the standard process of the City Planning Commission and City Council legislating on it. It could be a change to city code. It could be somehow, I think that could be written in for 18 months or 336 months or something like that. Just, I think that could all be worked out. But I don't think it would be successful if it had to go through the Board of Zoning Appeals, because then it's in a situation almost where it's a political process, I guess I would argue. And so therefore, I would say the people that we elect to make political decisions should be the ones to say yes or no to it. If you're putting it to the Board of Zoning Appeals, that is entirely a citizen volunteer role, and they often don't make friends by signing up for the Board of Zoning Appeals, and this could be another situation where they make even less friends. I don't know. But
would it be helpful to gauge interest first in the community before we move forward with any of that? Probably. Yeah, I'd be curious. And Sarah and Jasmine, I think the two of you might have better feel for this or not, but I mean, how many? I always say just because we can do something doesn't mean I'm going to do it, right? They could be, backyard chickens could be legal, and I bet the overwhelming majority of Athenians are not going to take advantage of that opportunity because it's a lot of work, right? Yeah. At least I assume it's a lot of work. You know better than me, though, Jasmine and Sarah, so I'll leave it at that. What do we really think, maybe as a board, what do we really think? How many people do we think would even be interested in this? This all started because I had come across I'd come across a thread on the West Side page months ago, and someone was really upset that his chickens were taken away from him because he wasn't allowed to have them there. And this thread got over 70 comments, and every single one of them was, just basically like, WTH, how could they do that? Take away your food source, and then a lot of other people jumping in saying that they really wanted to have chickens as well. And I could go back and probably find that thread. But it seemed that there was community interest, at least from, it's social media. So people will just sound off sometimes, and like maybe the actual will is there and maybe it isn't. But I don't know. I think some sort of a survey to at least gauge interest may be a good starting place. What do you think? I'll just chime in that I have been contacted by 2 separate residents about backyard chickens. And so one of the things I was going to suggest to this commission is that I think Paul's right that we need to think strategically about how to approach this. And I think that, some informational, in this day and age, I guess you could do it, you'd have to do it via Zoom. But we need to get the information, some accurate information out to the community about backyard chickens. Mm-hmm. From reviewing what happened, 10 years ago when this issue became before council and before the Board of Zoning Appeals, people jumped on, it's a health hazard, and they then just kind of shot it down. So I think we can provide some information about, that's just a sort of a scare. It's not a tactic, but that's what they were worried about. And I think we can address that head on. We can say, we know these are concerns, and here are answers to all of these concerns, or here are understanding of these concerns and why they may or may not be issues in our community. Another thing I think is very helpful when you're approaching city council is to show the number of communities in our state or in our tri-state area that have these already on the books, and provide some information about how those programs are going. No problems, or yes, there are problems, just be transparent about, how this has been done in other places. And people are often, I think, well, hey, if Oxford can do it, so can we, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Sarah's got a really nice document going of different cities that have done this and what their, specifics. Everybody's got it a little bit different, but I think she's already started the research on that, and putting that out into the public, I think, would be a good step. Yeah. To Paul's point, I think we do have to sort of think about what order the steps go in, because
this is a little bit interesting. If you need a variance, I mean, if we go, I think it would have to be legislated first, Paul, right? I mean, we would have to allow it.
Yeah.
And then the Board of Zoning Appeals is not their hands aren't tied by, well, we have to enforce the code. So I think it probably would have to come before council first.
Yes, I would agree with that, Sam.
But would council be more likely to go through with that, knowing that the community, I memean, don't you think that they would need some sort of evidence that there's a need for this or a desire for this first?
Yeah, I'm sorry. When I said council first, I just meant before the Board of Zoning Appeals, before anything was created. I agree with Jasmine that first we need to get out to the community and do spread the information and have some open forums to talk about this and sort of prime council for the conversation. Suggest as Sarah and Megan, and thank you so much for working on this issue. 10 pilot programs or individual sites. I think that's great. I think we should try, I don't know how you would run that application, but try to geographically kind of, have those around the city. And if they were all on the west side, it might be just a chicken fest and that's fine, but everybody might be just fine with it. But, one of the people who contacted me lives on the east side. I think it would be good to have, somebody on the east side do it so that people know, oh yeah, there's one right over there. I never even knew it or whatever, but try to spread it around depending on how you are going to set up the application process.
Well, one thought that occurred to me from a pilot perspective, perhaps set a number, limiting it to a certain number of units or something like that, 20 or 30 households, for example, and then there can be some reporting back on that. Those are just numbers I'm throwing out there, not that I'm committed to that, but or looking at it from, to Sam's point about being strategic, considering, a few in each neighborhood or something like that to try out a different, to see how it works in different settings, because like on the west side, the parcels are really small. The south side, they're more of a traditional suburban, larger lots, half acre lots, things like that. And then the near east side and the far east side are usually roughly twice the size of a lot on the west side, but smaller than, well, actually some of those are pretty small too, but smaller than a lot on the south side. I think this is great though. Thanks Sarah and Jasmine for everybody.
I haven't done like hardly any work on this. This is all Sarah and Megan so far.
Thank you, Sarah and Megan.
And I want to say too, I don't know that we've done much this winter. So, it's one of those things that we are picking up when we get a chance. And it's great to really have it reiterated how necessary it is to go through a legislative process. I appreciate everyone's input there and, some consult on the idea of a variance. I agree, if we can legislatively make this possible, first and foremost, that's ideal. So thanks for everyone for the feedback. And I definitely hope, in the first quarter of this.
Did Sarah freeze?
Yes.
Okay. At that moment of panic that I'd lost everybody. Sarah, unfortunately you're frozen. We can't hear you, so we might have to come back in a moment to your final point on that. Did we have, it looks like she dropped off. Hopefully she'll be back momentarily. Do we have anything else on chickens before we move on? If not, let's go ahead to hear from Paul and Lauren on the sustainability plan reporting.
Hey, everyone. Not a ton to report on my end. Lauren, if she has anything to share, she certainly can as well. Lauren and I had a few discussions in late December while she was home on break about getting caught up to speed on the sustainability plan. So I've given her access to the drive, and she's been reviewing the plan. What I'm hoping to do is set up a meeting. What I would like to do is set up a meeting in the next couple of weeks, maybe a Zoom meeting for Lauren and I for about 3 or 4 hours, and we could just start going through it and double checking what's missed and what's needed. But it's coming along. Honestly, admittedly, it's slow right now as far as getting it moving, but we're going to get it done before she graduates in May. So that's my goal. I'll leave it at that.
And so I wanted to just say quickly, Paul, that I believe the electric data has to be requested in the month of February, I think. So I can, while we're talking, I can look that up and see. But I remember there's some window, and if you miss it, then you can't get the data or something. I don't really know why, but.
That sounds right, Elaine.
Yeah, so while we're talking, I'll look up in the Dropbox and see. And I can shoot off an email and copy you guys on it if I know.
And we do have Sarah back. I think, Sarah, we missed your closing remarks there on the chickens, but I think we have our path forward, at least for the next few weeks on that. Lauren, did you have anything to add on the reporting? Lauren Connor?
No additional comments, just
okay. One thing you will all have in your inbox related to the sustainability plan is another copy of the biodiversity plan in its full form, as well as a first draft of a short version of the biodiversity plan that would be sort of to be able to be put in the format of the rest of the plan, with the sort of green box, blue box, yellow box, and then a page of goals and things. So I started filling out those text boxes, including starting filling out some potential indicators for that second page. Probably since I sent it out about 10:30 last night, it's a little too late for anybody to be expected to take a look at it today. I promised to have it done before the next meeting, and I did by 8 hours. So let's maybe plan to put that on next month's agenda for everybody to take a little bit more detailed look at that, both the long version as well as the short version. Think about whether those indicators are things that we do want to measure, whether we think we can measure, if there are things that are missing or are just, not able to be measured. And then maybe we can get those finalized and pass those on to council for their official blessing to have those added to the sustainability plan for the city. So
hey, Amy, I did look at it last night, and I thought your short version looked great.
Oh, thanks. Thanks.
I didn't so much think about are the metrics correct, but the format and the text seemed really good. I was really
okay. Great. Yeah. And so if you do like those individual indicators, if there are additional, I guess the next step would be the baseline, and then we'd have to think about goals for the future years. But that might be something that we can do over the coming months. So
Elaine gets a lot of work done between midnight and 4 a.m. You want to send her something about those hours.
That's my prime work hours.
I think I sent it out around 11 p.m. last night because my goal was to have it done by 10:30, and I didn't quite make it. But anyway, so let's make a point of putting that on the agenda next time.
So I have a question.
Sure.
On the indicators for the biodiversity action plan draft indicators. What made you choose the ones that are there?
Pretty much, I went through the full plan, which had gotten feedback from quite a few people, and pulled out ones that seemed like they were actually measurable. So it's not all of the indicators in the full plan, but it's the ones that seemed like we might be able to, actually, measure them and get people on board with, increasing those performance on those.
Do these species only include native species, or are they also counting things that are not native?
The species counts will include both.
Okay.
We do have other measures related to control of invasive species. So, the idea being we would like to continue to know what we have even if it's native or not. So that's that first indicator on number of species.
Okay, cool.
And that might be one that's a little bit hard to benchmark because I don't know how many species we actually have and to what extent we will asymptotically approach that. So that's one that might be a little bit challenging to meet. But it's not like, the hand of God is going to strangle us if we miss an indicator. So yeah, please go ahead and take a look at that.
The number of species is going to change. Anyway.
Right.
The idea is that we want to increase the number of species as time goes on.
Yeah, we want to approach knowing the full number that we have. I mean, obviously, from the microorganism level, and even with some things like mosses, that's probably not, really doable. But people are finding a lot of stuff on iNaturalist. It's pretty darn cool.
That's cool.
Way to access that information from iNaturalist, or who?
I think Stefan has actually created like a city. Haven't you created sort of a city outline on iNaturalist that you can search on, Stefan?
Yes, yes. There's an iNaturalist project for the city, which has different neighborhoods separately counted, but. Well, I still need to have like the entire city area separately because the current neighborhoods don't cover everything. So I guess I should go back and try to find a GIS map expert who would create a KML file for the city for me, and then I can do it.
Just ping Rob; he'll do it for you. Tell him I sent you.
There you go.
Okay.
Seriously, I'll warn him.
Yeah.
I'll be on it. Yeah.
He's actually, just on a separate but related note, Rob is actually going through and updating a lot of the trail data. When the late, great John Naus did a lot of that data, the GPS technology was a lot less advanced than it is now. And so Rob has been refining a lot of that data around the city. So yeah, and actually I don't know if I hope that didn't sound flippant if folks weren't aware. John Naus, the founder of Athens Conservancy, did pass away within the past month. In fact, this month people are encouraged to go do a hike on one of the Athens preserves and kind of do it in his honor. They're calling it the Groundhug Day hike instead of the Groundhog Day hike because we're all hugging from afar and remembering John Naus.
Yeah, but that's a tradition that John actually had started. So
yeah.
It's a long tradition.
Yeah. Okay, so anything else on the sustainability plan reporting? If not, we can move on to pollinator habitat and solar array. One of the things that we were going to attempt to do this meeting was to have a presentation from some of Lorraine McCosker's students who've done some studying of the Hocking River corridor. They unfortunately were not able to. They had a conflict tonight, but we're going to try to have a presentation from them at the March meeting. So that's related to some of the work that Jasmine did and looking at possibilities for better management along the river.
Well, I'm excited to hear it.
So I'm confused. Is that about river management or solar arrays?
I think that particular project is about river corridor management and the possibility of having more natural vegetation. But we also talked about having natural vegetation and pollinator habitat around solar arrays that would be near the river corridor. So it's kind of two related topics. And I think my notes about the presentation were under that pollinator habitat thing in the minutes. That's why I thought I'd mention it here.
So Paul, has anything new developed regarding finding suitable locations? I remember vaguely that we looked at preliminary maps, and one of those maps was showing like this green lawn space behind the library as a potential site. for solar arrays. I was not.
Yeah, I don't. There's no update from what I provided last month, Stefan. That was still very preliminary. Pretty crude, not or rudimentary as far as what was demonstrated there for concepts. But there's Andrew Chickie's still working. Andrew Chickie, our deputy safety director, he's the contact person working with Third Sun Solar to put together the project. So he'll know more as it comes together this spring or late winter. But I don't have any update this evening. God, it's been a long day. He did express. I did talk with Andrew about the pollinator program for it, and he appreciates all the work and the interest of the Sustainability Commission, and would like to get some guidance from the commission on that project. So if maybe we could I could ask him to attend a meeting, maybe the March meeting.
Yeah.
If you all would prefer, I guess, Amy, if that's okay with you.
Yeah.
Realizing that we might have some grad students doing a presentation as well.
Yeah, beyond the pollinator surrounding those solar panels, maybe we can also have some discussion among ourselves about suitable or not so suitable locations. I find that this open space behind the library would be, not nice if this would be blocked. So, children can't run to the river there anymore from the library. And, dog owners and birders may walk through there too. So I was wondering, looking at a map, if state, a highway property near the city might be a better solution. That's that space anyway. So the ramp from into the city, for instance, there's like an isolated green patch where nobody can walk anyway.
Right.
And maybe banks along the highway as well. That might be a consideration to work together with ODOT on those to develop some options there. Maybe
it's my experience with ODOT is that they're going to say no. Period. It's possible that conversation's already had. ODOT is a general rule they would not want to dedicate their property for a use where they would not have control over making changes to the interstate system or to the on-ramp, off-ramp system should they need to. Our goal with this project, of course, is that the only way for us to really make it work is to do it on land that we own. Because if we have to purchase real estate to make it happen, it's not going to happen. We just don't have the resources to do that right now. Mm-hmm. That real estate, you're right. These are trade-offs is how I would look at it, Stefan. You're understood. If we're utilizing space for one thing, that means that the existing use may not happen on it. I think there's a lot we would have to weigh in there. Whether is that real estate best valued as open space for passive recreation, or could we better utilize that to get us off carbon? And I think those are reasonable discussions to be had. I'll certainly double check with Andrew to see if there's other locations looked at or consulted with, or if there's an opportunity with ODOT. I'll pass that along to him as well, though.
Okay.
It seems like a place like the library, that's a big space. Couldn't it accommodate both things? Just not have to fill it all up with one thing.
Yeah, there's a lot of field back there. And there is a path that goes from the parking lot straight to the bike path. So you don't necessarily have to walk through the grass to get there.
Yeah.
My experience is that the grass is usually very wet and I don't like walking through it. It should be a wetland above anything else. But yeah, I guess to each their own.
I would agree that the area there's the pathway connecting the library and the river. The area to the west of that seems to get a lot more dog and people use. That area between the path and Route 33 does seem to be kind of squishy a lot of the time and does not seem to get as much foot traffic or dog traffic. Fortunately, it's a pretty large chunk of real estate when you think of the entire area between Stimson and 33. So hopefully there's room for a little of everything.
Yeah. My understanding of the project, and it would be great if Andrew is able to join in March, and we could even see if Jeff Greenfield would join. I'm sure he'd be open to that. Is that, they're utilizing not only ground space with a ground mount system, but they're also looking at, available roof space and, really trying to organize both sites and, the most cost effective solar is the closest to its end user, right? So that would be, if it is to power the community center complex, then the best location is closest to it. So,
and the wastewater treatment plant, Sarah, not just the community center, but.
Thank you for saying that. That actually is the major target. The approach, I think, from the city standpoint has been, what is our largest energy user in the city? Where do we pay our most, highest energy use bill? And it is the water treatment facility. So.
You bet. Yeah.
Okay. Anything else on old business? We're looking at about 12 minutes to the top of the hour, and we have a few things to cover as well. So let's move on to new business, the first of which is B-City USA.
Great. Thanks, Amy. This ties in very nicely with the biodiversity action plan. And I just wanted to sort of let the commission know that I am enacting a plan to apply for B-City USA status as well as B-Campus USA status this semester to announce both of those hopefully on Earth Day.
Nice.
So in the long version of the Biodiversity Action Plan, Amy included B-City USA status in one of her goals, obviously maintaining and improving habitat, one of the action items. So it would satisfy that and get us sort of going on the action plan. I've spoken with the mayor and he's on board, and his office will pay the annual fee. My boss at Ohio University, Steve Wood, is behind the effort, and he says, although Elaine and I were chuckling, it'll probably come out of our budget, but he says he'll pay for the university's portion of the annual fee. I have a number of people who have committed to working with me on this on the university side. I think on the city side, this commission will be the sort of central organizing authority for that. It makes the most sense. The Circes Society, if I'm saying that correct, which runs the campus program, B Campus and B City, they require that the city, an official city department, be responsible party. And the mayor and Terry Moore at Arts, Parks, and Recreation have agreed to be the department. Terry Moore has also agreed to be the official city liaison for the program. And then there has to be a city committee that officially obviously does the work. So I contacted, and tell me, Amy, is it Circes? Xerxes. I contacted Xerxes to find out if we needed to create a new committee or if that this existing committee, and it's possible that maybe just a subcommittee of this committee, we can have 4 or 5 of us or 3 or 4 of us officially join that. There is no requirement for the number of annual meetings that you have. I was going to propose to the campus that we have 1 per semester. So really 3 a year, including the summer. And for us, if we just include it as an as an item in one of our meetings a couple times a year, that'll satisfy. We are looking at the materials necessary for these designations. We are already doing so much of what is necessary, having a plan, having the biodiversity action plan, the sustainability plan, that I think it's pretty much just compiling the information, and doing both the campus and the city at the same time also makes it easier. I can use different things. It also, I think, in terms of marketing, as we announce this hopefully on Earth Day, the fact that our entire community, the campus and the city together, are doing this, I think will have the biggest impact, I hope, for pollinators in our community. So I just really want to let everybody know that I've kind of am handling this, and I will be reaching out to some of you. Ed Newman, I owe you an email because Susan Calhoun and I were talking about your specific bee skills and knowledge, and asking you to be on the campus committee, as well as maybe you'll offer some knowledge on this committee too. But I'll contact you separately about that, Ed.
Cool. I'm all about I'm all about supporting the bees.
Awesome.
And there's an Athens County area beekeeping association that probably would be into it too.
Okay, cool. I just found out that Amesville actually received designation last year. Interestingly, on the Xerces website, they list Amesville as having joined in 2001. And I was so impressed. I was like, oh my God, for 20 years they've been? So I contacted Gary Gooseman, the mayor of Amesville. He said, no, it was just last year. And I said, okay, you're getting 20 years of credit, but just take it. So we also can make a connection with Amesville. And there's only 2 campuses in the entire state that have this designation, and only, I think, 8 cities in all of the state of Ohio. So I think we can get some good to move the rest of the state towards doing
what are the other campuses?
Ed, they were none of the large. One was a community college, and none of the large schools. I'll have to look it up again. One was a community college, and one was something I didn't even.
So we could talk smack to them.
We can talk some smack, Ed. You are right. It's Recycle Mania time. You're in your smacks.
We can tell OSU that we are the bee campus, USA.
There you go. Anyway, that's all I have, and I'll keep you updated. Anybody has more information can kind of contact me offline, and I'll be reaching out to you experts to.
Great. Yeah, and Sam, if there are specific metrics related to the Bee City, or just the idea of remaining in Bee City or upping our status or whatever, that should go in that short version of the biodiversity plan, maybe read with an eye towards that over the next month.
Okay, I will do that.
Great.
And I guess Elaine too. My husband works for UCM. He's a photographer there. So he was asking me the other day about Earth Day stories to cover that are tied to the university. So can I have him contact you? Because he's looking for, that sounds like maybe something he'd be interested in shooting.
Yes, please.
Well, okay.
Mm-hmm.
He does great work too. I loved his.
He does.
The local communities and Black Lives Matter and stuff is wonderful.
Yeah.
Thanks. I agree.
All right. Moving on to Earth Day 2021. Elaine, do you have anything for us on that?
I don't have anything specifically on it, but I'm just hoping that at this group we can, if people know of things that they can tell us, so we can put it on the website, the community website that Sarah started. Was it like 4 or 5 years ago now, Sarah? But
I was thinking about Earth Day this year, and I was like, it'll be my 20th year doing Earth Day in Athens.
Wow.
It's crazy. It's a dynasty around here. And
last year we celebrated the 50th anniversary. This year we'll celebrate Sarah's 20th anniversary.
There we go. All right. Well, I certainly want to be involved in any planning that anyone wants to do. And, yes, the website that we set up, I think, is a good clearinghouse for things happening around the community. I had this thought, just to pitch it to everybody here, given the pandemic, given, everyone's inability to gather, might this be the year that we collectively, as a community voice, really uplift the stories of sustainability here in our region and talk to the Biden administration? I know it's hard to be one voice shouting in the, ether, but maybe as a collective voice, one of our Earth Day activities could really be to uplift what it is that works here, also point to some of the challenges that we perennially faced. That's about as far as I've gone with that thought, but it's just the one that keeps coming up in my mind, like, a collective action kind of, either that's a letter writing campaign, a video montage kind of thing, just something where we're really like, talking about the work we do here and the things we're proud of, but the things we really still need to grow in. So.
Yeah, and Sarah, that's interesting too, because one of the things I thought, besides the things that we already we have going on, like the growing saplings and gosh, Sam, help me out here. We've got our hub seminar, and there are several activities that we already have going on. But in addition to that, I noticed that Biden is, he's having an Earth Day climate conference,
yes,
National Climate Conference. And I was thinking that it would be pretty cool if, we at least publicize that somehow from our committee and commission and ask people to join it, or, somehow. I mean, so I guess we're thinking along those same lines in terms of,
Jude, I want to be featured in it. I think that's what we should be going for, right?
Yeah, there you go. That'd be perfect. Yeah.
I think big. What can I say?
Biden to mention us in his international climate conference. That'd be great.
A girl can dream.
Yeah.
I think it's a great idea, and I think maybe a well-produced video would be, all the things that we have accomplished, and yet the challenges that we still face, I think is wonderful. And it's possible that we could, City Council could do a resolution sort of announcing or supporting this, and then that's a way that we could feed that to both the House representatives, the senators, and then ultimately the president.
Yeah. Nice.
Thank you, Sam. Yes.
Sarah, you're our face. I'll put.
Hey, I'm just the boots, man. I'm just the boots.
So we also, the other thing too, is sustainability films, of course. I mean, that's something else that during Earth Month.
We got curbside compost collection.
There we go. Yeah. So if we could just put all of those things in the website again, so we have a nice list of community activities, that'd be fantastic. And Sam, is Isabel is that one of her tasks for the spring or new?
So we met on Friday. We have a new student who's doing events coordination for our office, and I met with her on Friday, and we went through the website from last year, and I explained her whole role in creating that in that website for this year. And so I haven't looked at it, Elaine, since Friday. She's she's been given the assignment, and I think she's pretty responsible. See.
Okay, good. So if people had ideas and they wanted to send them to events.sustainability@ohio.edu, it would go straight to her and she would put them on the website. Again, is that?
Yeah, that's fine. I will reach out to you. You guys can just email me with anything too, and I will be reaching out to all the contacts I have to try to get all of those activities with Isabel, and we'll get them on our page. As I mentioned last time, I think we're really looking at the month of April, but if it's in March or in May, we'd love to have it too. So anything that's going on in the spring.
Sarah or Elaine. Sarah or Elaine, can some of you send that link out maybe in the chat again of that website?
The website, yeah. It's on our website. So on sustainability, if you go to
just to reacquaint ourselves with what.
But yeah, I'll just put it in the chat real quick.
Thank you.
Rural Action raised about, I think, $2,000 for tree planting at the Chauncey Dover Community Park. I don't know if it's being billed as an Earth Day event. I haven't seen that. Do you know anything?
I don't know. I thought it sort of was being billed as that. But
I think it's in the spring.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's happening in the spring and right around when. So yeah, they're planting 1,000 trees.
1,000 trees. Yeah. Hang on. Just a sec.
Let me put the link up.
Yeah.
Double link.
And, going back to getting us on the map federally, I don't think that's you out there. I think that's, I mean, it's a good story, a rural Appalachian town that our area at some point we were dependent on coal, and now, we're trying to get away from that. And so it's in the news, it's relevant to the times. And I think that the story is there if it's told, through that historical lens and with the context of where we came from. I think it's especially powerful.
Yeah, I don't see a date on that tree planting. Their next phase is then going to be milkweed planting, which is also very cool. But
I'll
and
make
also
sure that we get details on that.
Yeah,
I can get that from you.
And just speaking of the Baileys, there'll probably be a press release going out in the next few weeks. So the Athens Bike Club, the Baileys Trails, Orca, Cycle Path Bikes, and a local donor and the Athens Police Department are partnering up to take some of the bikes that the police department, or they were like unclaimed bikes from around the city, get those fixed up and distribute them to particularly kids, but maybe some adults too in the Chansey area. So that's a multi-partner project that's going on right now as well.
Yeah, and Amy, if I could just quickly, you mentioned that last time, and I contacted my contact at Moving and Surplus at the university, as well as the OUPD, about the bikes, and they did not get back to me. So I need to try them again and see if I can't do something to contribute to that program.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Thanks, Sam. So I want to be mindful of time. It's slightly after 7. We did already lose Megan. She had to go to another meeting. We have a few announcements and updates. I did want to mention the Wayne National Forest has decided to put a pause on their planning process. They announced that officially today. They're sort of really feeling like they have all this information from the assessment, a lot of new, potential guidance and mandates coming down from the federal level about management of the forest. And they do really feel like that, first of all, they can move forward with some of the management needs that were identified in the assessment via the current process and going through the amendment process rather than the revision process. So the amendment process is much simpler and smaller scale. And then they didn't really say how long this pause is going to be. They're eventually going to have to revise that 2006 plan. But I am holding out some hope that they'll be able to move into that revision and, management framework for the next decade and a half, using what hopefully will be some new guidance from the Forest Service about particularly climate, biodiversity, and carbon sequestration. And that's what was really that federal update. Part B there was, I probably am not going to spend much time on it, but we do have a new federal administration. As of 2 weeks ago, President Biden wasted no time signing some executive orders that really place climate change, both mitigating climate change through reducing greenhouse gases and improving carbon uptake on natural ecosystems, as well as building resilience to climate change in communities and conserving 30% of the United States by 2030. Those are all, priorities and executive orders that have come out just in these first week of the Biden administration. So I think there's a lot of exciting federal stuff going on. I gave a fairly detailed dive into some of that at the sustainability film last week, and I don't think we have time for that tonight. But if folks are interested, I'd be happy to chat offline or share some information about, what the new federal initiatives are. It's a lot of overturning bad environmental policy from the Trump administration. So, and then hopefully that will build into affirmative good environmental policy over the next months.
And Stefan, are you still here?
Yeah.
We should announce the backyard bird
Good call.
A great backyard bird count. Yeah, it's coming up in February, like 12th to 15th, I think, this long weekend, Friday to Monday.
That's right.
So yeah, the announcement went out to the Athens area birders this week.
Yeah. Cool. Okay. Does anyone else have anything pressing to share?
Yes, just real quick. So the Climate Sustainability Ambassadors, that's the student organization that's associated with our office, and there are lots of active students involved in that. They had their planning meeting for the beginning of the semester, and they had several of them, Ryan Fote, who runs it, asked what they'd like to do this semester, and several of them mentioned pollinator habitats or way stations, invasive species removals, and tree plantings. And so I think that means we have a pool of students who are willing to help with any projects we have. And so I was going to mention that earlier when we were talking about the pollinator habitat, but I don't think that's ready for this semester. But if anything else comes up like that and you need students, Ryan is looking for activities to give them that are not just virtual activity. Yeah. And so this morning I had a meeting with him, and he said, please, if the commission knows of any way the students can be helpful, and that Great American Bird Count could be one of them. And the tree planting that Jasmine put in the...
Yeah, the tree planting up at the Baileys. And what's the status at Arts West? Are they going to be able to do anything this year?
There's been no talk about that pollinator garden.
Okay.
That's a good question, though.
And then the last piece about the ambassadors is that we need to replace Abby. So it's our student commissioner, and that would be a good place for us to send an email, ask Ryan to send an email asking if any of those students want to be our student commissioner. So unless anybody objects to that, I'll just ask him to send out an email asking. That sound okay?
Yeah, great.
Okay.
Thanks, everybody.
Sure.
All right. And with that, I think we are, like I said, a little after 7, so we will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?